Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing the Billy Wilder classic, the black and white film noir, awesome Sunset Boulevard here from 1950 in my beautiful 75th anniversary edition I picked up in the Barnes & Noble Paramount sale. I haven't watched this in a long time all the way through. I've used it in a project where I had students look at screenwriting and memoir, and because of how the film opens, I just think it makes sort of a natural gateway to that. But it was funny when I was watching it. I watched it with my wife and mother-in-law, and I'll show her pictures when she's around us every so often. And she said, I really need to start watching more older movies, and because they're so good. And it was funny because the whole thing is about searching, your heart in the past, what you might have lost or left behind, and in some cases you might still be obsessed with. And we had a lot of fun with it. I think this film is so successful because it does a lot you don't even realize it's doing. If you're unfamiliar with the premise of the film, William Holden is this like completely washed up writer. Like it's hard to tell exactly how good or bad he is as a writer. To what extent is he not able to write the best story? To what extent is he underselling himself to try to make a quick buck with a generic script in Hollywood? There's a funny scene with that. It doesn't seem like he's the best writer, but it doesn't seem like he's the worst either. And he's trying to get away from people who are trying to repo his car. Kind of might be an interesting double feature with Repo Man there. Also, that one's in the Criterion Collection. And he ends up driving into this old movie star's home, played by Gloria Swanson beautifully, as Norma Desmond. And she herself was a silent film actress. And so it works really well. She has a butler there who was also, Eric von Stroheim was he was an actor in the silent film era, notably in Greed, great silent film. And the whole thing is a little bit enchanting and a little bit scary and spooky, kind of a Xanadu Citizen Kane vibe going on. And there's a decision early on in this film, and it's perfect. The way that William Holden reacts to seeing this funeral that's about to happen. If you haven't seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. He plays it so coy and light and softly and so smoothly that I think it helps make the drama matter more later. And there are a number of instances in the picture where we don't even realize that the stakes are constantly getting raised. A love interest, there's no conflict. A new development has taken place within the house where the screenwriter gets stuck working on this script that was definitely poorly written by this aging silent film actress. All the time throughout this film, some new conflict is presenting itself, and you don't even realize it's happening half the time. It gets claustrophobic. There's a beautiful scene where William Holden's trying to get away, from his capturer of Norman Desmond, and he's like running up into this old part of the studio where this other writer he's working with is, and it's like you don't even realize half the time how trapped you are with them and how trapped he is. I think one of the parts of the film that's always been the saddest to me, and maybe the most personally, like part that I react to the most personally, is all the Cecil B. DeMille pieces. She in the film, she tries to work with Cecil B. DeMille again on a picture. And if you're unfamiliar with him, he was a really famous director. I covered a film a while back that he worked on that's in the Criterion Collection that I think is one of the best silent films ever made, The King of Kings, which I really praise that film. Outside of any religious meaning it might or might not have for you, it's just a very well-made film. And I think that's like the perfect director to have been a gateway to the silent films, because he's all the kind of biblical epics and stuff. It's just the perfect choice of person for her to relate to in that way, because she, in a sense, is like an aging goddess. She even has her own she makes him watch her old movies, and then there's like the cool shot with the cigarette smoke, and the movie does just have those memorable shots, like the when he's talking about himself and kind of tongue-in-cheek in his own dead body in the pool in the beginning. Not really a spoiler there because it happens in the first few minutes. Like that shot, of all the shots in that film, I think is the most memorable. You know, because it is kind of like most great Billy Wilder. There's a little bit of black comedy. It's funny, and the drama just builds while you're not even looking, and it's so terrific in that way. I had forgotten because I hadn't seen it in so long that, you know, Norma Desmond puts on this little Charlie Chaplin act, and I think that's a really cool kind of side effect of the film. You know, you get all these references to Valentino. You know, you have Buster Keaton playing a card game, literally Buster Keaton there at one point. I mean, it's just, the movie is a fan of other movies, and movie people love whenever other movies that we like get acknowledged and movies that we already like. It's just kind of like a bonus, you know? It's like you're already getting a good salary at work and someone gives you a good bonus. You know, early on, someone says, I think a picture ought to say something when kind of criticizing a script that our hero has written. And another, you know, I'd kind of forgotten just how similar pieces of this are to The Apartment, which is one of my really favorite Billy Wilder movies, and how much the director kind of digs into mental health. And I don't think that Sunset Boulevard does it quite to the level of The Apartment with Shirley MacLaine's character, but it is the kind of film that makes you wonder, what if I were everything, and then I were basically nothing, to the point that people had to lie to me to assuage my feelings. It asks interesting questions like that all over the place. But I think if William Holden had been dead serious the whole time, I just don't think it would have worked as well. Like, I like that he's kind of all over the place. I like that he's a little bit immature and childish and foolish, and I think it makes, you know, more natural and believable that he's even in that house to begin with for the length of time he is. You know, if he's a little bit wiser, then the whole story loses credibility. And there are lots of little touches like that that I think make this film such an authentic and rich experience that it is. And I didn't, the first time I watched this, I really didn't understand or really appreciate Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond. I almost thought she was like just a bad actress in a way, because she actually seems like she's acting as an actress like the way you're not supposed to act. You know what I mean? She almost feels too much like a real silent film actress, but I think that really works in the film. She's not natural. She is kind of like stuck in some other world that doesn't make sense to regular rational people. It's a good contrast with the young lady that William Holden gets involved with later in the picture, who is much more natural and normal for that matter. You know, I think her eccentricity, it's great in that. But then when she does break down and have those mental health moments, like, it pays off, you know? And there is kind of a ruthless desperation and jealousy to her that's pretty intriguing to see again. I would encourage you, if you have not watched it, you know, if you're like me and you'd only see it on a DVD, watch it on the 4K if you can. The good, crisp, clear image there, it really helps in some of the darker scenes, but it was nice being able to revisit this Billy Wilder film again. And I was wondering what your thoughts were, if you've been seeing the movie again with the 4K release, or if you just like it in general, or any other Billy Wilder. Let me know in the comments your thoughts, and click the thumbs up button if you haven't already done that, and subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.